You know how we have this whole industry dedicated to fighting hackers and protecting our digital lives? Well, what if we could use those exact same strategies to protect our children? That is the massive idea behind a new, pretty ambitious policy proposal we're going to break down today. It's a blueprint that looks right at the world of cybersecurity to build a stronger, more proactive defense for child safety. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of the strategy, it's so important to understand the why behind all of this. This quote really gets right to the heart of it. It's a simple, powerful statement that frames this whole thing not as some technical exercise, but as what it is, a moral imperative to protect the most vulnerable among us. Okay, so to really get our heads around this new blueprint, we're going to walk through 5 key parts. We'll kick things off by looking at why a new approach is so desperately needed. Then we'll dive right into the cybersecurity playbook itself and see how that creates something called a defense chain. We'll also get real about the barriers to making this happen. And finally, we'll explore the really bold vision for an entirely new ecosystem dedicated to child safety. So first up, why change things? Why do we even need a new approach? Well, the proposal argues that when it comes to protecting kids, the status quo just isn't cutting it anymore. It's time to bring in fresh eyes from totally different fields like engineering and start thinking about child safety with the same kind of rigor we'd use to, say, build a bridge or design a computer system that can't fail.
And listen, this isn't just some idea cooked up in a vacuum. It's built on a really solid foundation. It pulls from the best practices around the globe, especially some groundbreaking policies out of Australia. And it brings together a whole team of experts. We're talking police, risk managers, cybersecurity specialists, tech leaders, a real meeting of the minds to tackle this from every single angle.
All right, so that brings us to the core of this whole thing, the cybersecurity playbook. Now this is where it gets really interesting. We're about to explore how the battle-tested strategies that companies use to fight off sophisticated hackers can actually be adapted to build a powerful new framework for protecting children. To get this playbook, you first have to understand a really key distinction the proposal makes. See, any organization that works with kids, like a school or a club, is juggling 2 big things. First, there's just maintaining operational conditions. Keeping the lights on, paying the bills, running the day-to-day. But then there's maintaining safety conditions, which is the active, intentional work of making sure kids are actually safe. And the argument here is that safety can't be an afterthought. It needs to be treated just as seriously as the operations themselves. So tackling both of those challenges at the same time, that takes more than just a few tweaks to the system. The proposal calls for a major innovation, a fundamental shift in how we even think about child protection. And this shift really stands on 3 pillars. First up, it has to be an organizational innovation. This is about changing the very structure of these institutions. It's about making safety a top priority and making sure it has its own dedicated resources, not just whatever's left over from the general budget. Second, we need methodological and technological innovation. This means we stop just reacting to problems. Instead, we start using systematic, repeatable processes to analyze risks and respond to incidents. And we use the latest technology to make those processes way more effective. And the third pillar just ties it all together, a true spirit of innovation. We're talking about a complete paradigm shift, moving from a reactive, wait for something bad to happen mindset to a proactive, engineering-inspired approach of always getting better. Okay, so we've got these 3 pillars, but what does that look like in the real world? How does it actually work? Well, that brings us to the defense chain, a continuous loop designed to make child protection a living, breathing, ongoing effort. And just like any good security strategy, it all starts with one fundamental question. What is our objective? Before you can build a defense, you have to know exactly what you're defending. What does a whim actually look like? And the proposal gives a crystal clear answer. The number 1 objective is to protect the sexual integrity of children. Period. And the end goal is just as clear, to create a system that can identify potential attackers, monitor threats, and ultimately stop them. This 3-stage cycle is the engine that drives the whole defense chain. It starts with prevention, proactively trying to stop abuse before it can even start. If something does get through, the next stage is detection, spotting the incident and managing the crisis right away. And finally, and this is probably the most crucial part, is system correction. This is where you learn from what happened to improve your defenses and make the entire system stronger for next time. It's a constant feedback loop that never stops improving. Now, this all sounds pretty amazing in theory, right? But what about the real world? Well,
One of the best things about this proposal is how brutally honest it is about the huge barriers that stand in the way.
And these are not small hurdles. We're talking about things like tight budgets, where operations always seem to win out over safety, the simple fact that most organizations don't have a dedicated safety management system. You've got complex legal issues like data privacy laws, and sometimes just a cultural pushback against these kinds of tech-focused solutions. And maybe the toughest one of all, the denial that threats can actually come from inside an organization.
So, if those are the barriers, what's the long-term vision to get past them? This brings us to the final and maybe the most ambitious part of the whole plan: creating an entire ecosystem for safety. This isn't just about fixing what we have. It's about building a whole new industry from the ground up. The ultimate vision here is to actually kickstart the growth of a brand new economic sector, a public-private partnership focused entirely on child safety. I mean, think about the massive cybersecurity industry we have today, with thousands of companies all creating products and services. The idea is to build a similar, thriving ecosystem, but one that is 100% focused on protecting kids. So, what would this market even look like? Well, we're talking about a whole new world of businesses and services. You'd have companies developing software for risk analysis, consulting firms that specialize in auditing child safety practices, standards bodies, even new technologies like biometric sensors or special tablets designed to help detect trauma. And building an ecosystem like that from scratch takes a real plan. The proposal suggests things like organizing think tanks to spark new ideas, copying what nations do for cyber defense, and adopting the best policies from all over the world. It also calls for creating a formal standard for a child safety management system and really pushing for innovation in tech, like with AI and data analysis. To make this vision a reality across Europe, the proposal argues that you need a high-level infrastructure, kind of like what countries have for national security. We're talking about a central strategic command, national agencies in each country, and a constant flow of threat intelligence to stay one step ahead. Now, one of the most specific and probably most debated tech ideas in the proposal is the idea of a bio-ID from birth for every child in Europe. The thinking presented in the policy is that a system like this could be a powerful tool for identification and protection, especially in terrible situations like cross-border trafficking or finding missing kids. And so, that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. This blueprint is ambitious, it's systematic, it's comprehensive, but is this the future? Is building a new public-private ecosystem modeled on the fast-moving world of cybersecurity the answer we've been searching for to keep our children safe?